obviously much more difficult, and Team Freedom found that hole, and they exposed it.
Yeah, even Cassia, when you look at some of her counterparts for ranged, is sort of lacking in her ability to keep up with the wave clear. But for now, Team Freedom moves ahead in this series. They are at 2-1, and they will choose Infernal Shrines for possibly the last game of the series. Simplicity picking first pick after that Cursed Hollow loss, which was on their battleground.
You could say that this is Simplicity's worst map. They're 0-3, and their KD is a paltry 0.21, which is the lowest of all the battlegrounds that they've played. They're not incapable of playing it, they've just struggled on it. I think the compositions that they've drafted thus far might have a little bit more effect here. On the other side, you have 4-2 on the side of Team Freedom, and it's their second best battleground in terms of their KD. So a strength for Team Freedom, not as much of a strength for Simplicity. We'll see how this plays out. I'm really curious to see drafts after our first few games.
Malthael is my big question.
Yeah.
Does it maintain its high priority status for Simplicity? Or do we see them adjust, making sure that they have somebody who is more capable range-wise for the Shrines?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to look at a little bit more range. We've seen some Jaina in the past, so I think Jaina is definitely a possibility here. Kael'thas maybe an outside shot. I do remember there were games way back when Zuno just, he'd take anything that could do damage and be impactful. Ragnaros, I think, is another one to consider here as well if you're on the side of Team Freedom. Alexstrasza, haven't seen much of her from both of these teams since the earlier part with K1. Maybe again. I know you're a big advocate of Alexstrasza on this battleground.
Love the control she can provide over the Shrines, but the scary part remains of trying to make sure that you can keep her alive. She can kind of keep herself alive. She can hold her own as long as those big cooldowns of Cleansing Flame, Dragon Queen, that those are still there. But in this very melee-favored meta that's been developing between these two teams, especially for Simplicity, I'd be a little bit concerned of the dive-in from that, especially for Team Freedom side, although Collusion has played Alexstrasza, I think, once here.
Wasn't it this battleground that they ran the Malfurion Uther with Zuna on Uther?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But it was basically the same game as last game. They just couldn't deal with structures being threatened. They couldn't deal with the good rotations of their opponents with the wave clear. They got way behind with the wave clear. So I don't think we're going to see Simplicity make that same drafting choice.
Just put him back on ETC?
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. You know, the success is hit or miss. Malfurion, nonetheless, has been a high priority ban in this series, by far.
Yeah, I wonder if we will continue to see that past this series, or if this is more of a Team Freedom focus, if it's Freedom focusing on Simplicity. There's it's hard to figure out there. Huh? Malthael stays.
Yeah, the Malfurion, I mean, after we got through the Tyrael experiment and how bad his first pick results were, I think teams are maybe looking at some other picks. Hanzo, by the way, Hanzo Gilly has one of the highest win rates of all heroes across the globe. On Infernal Shrines, has a 37% win rate. 37. There's no other battleground where he's even near that bad. We've seen less Hanzo in these games than I think we've normally seen, the less priority. I think teams might want to steer clear of that.
Well, Freedom will, at least for the moment. They'll prioritize getting Greymane instead. We've seen a lot more of that auto-attacking Greymane. Though with Quicksilver Bullets, no Wizened Duelist yet. But instead of getting Greymane Blaze, as Team Freedom did in Game 1 and Game 2, they'll get Greymane and had the ETC steal away from Simplicity.
Yeah, they've had Zuna and King Caffeine play it. King Caffeine, obviously, when he's on the main tank, goes into that. You know, we saw the Kerrigan pick up last week. This is more of a Kerrigan battleground. I don't think he had it on Infernal Shrines, though. But is there a possibility we might see double melee assassin if Zuna's like, look, I got to go in?
I don't think that Simplicity has played double melee assassin. They've definitely played double tank and then with a melee assassin for Zuna. But there's still those picks up, and they have a 2 pick. They have a double pick. So if they wanted to, they could maybe get like the Tyrael here or the Uther here along with that, or try to leave it and maybe see if they can force the ban if they feel like they have something else in mind that would be just as strong for them. They get the Tyrael. Is it going to be Uther, Kerrigan, Alexstrasza?
We got it.
Okay.
We got it. That is a lot of shrine control. The one thing it does lack when you have Tyrael, especially if he does become that main tank, is the lack of hard CC. You have control, you can support a lot, you play around that. The thing that I worry about when it comes to Simplicity is that they tend to play into things with a different style of composition. Like, they'll still have the same mentality, the same approach, as opposed to more of a cautious, more disciplined approach. And I think that right there is a good start for most teams, and I wonder if Simplicity can really control themselves and win around that and maybe get that Jaina pick for more control.
Yeah, they want to get everything they can to protect that Alexstrasza, especially because with an ETC and a Greymane, there is a possibility of Alexstrasza getting dove upon. And I'm wondering if maybe when we see... Has Freedom played Apather here? I know we've seen some bans on Apather on Infernal Shrines.
That's a good question.
I thought maybe they had once. I'm gonna look. Yes, they have. Tyrael, Greymane, Genji. They have the Greymane. If you get a double Greymane in there, Tyrael's peel for Alexstrasza is fairly limited. You're not looking at an ETC with the face melt off of her. You can get Holy Ground at 13. But there's also the Diva factor for Infernal Shrines and Freedom.
Ragnaros still open. If they don't go Ragnaros, I would expect them to go into that Abathur. I think that was definitely something they could consider. We've already got Malthael Tyrael. It feels like Ragnaros would be a little bit of a stretch on the side of Simplicity, and I don't think Zuna has played Ragnaros. He's played a lot, but he has not played Ragnaros. I'm not saying he's incapable, but is it as refined? And Freedom, they might just opt for, look, we got to make sure we don't give up any of the shrines.
Beautiful pick. After banning Tychus, getting Hanzo, Team Freedom have lowered the playing field for Simplicity for whoever is going to be that ranged hero for Simplicity. Might move Simplicity more into a mage type hero. Maybe we'll see Hosty go back into the Gul'dan. That did struggle somewhat with getting the kills, but now you've got Cleansing Flame maybe to be able to close or to finish out the kills for Simplicity.
I actually do worry about that a bit. I think there's an outside shot we might just get a Tassadar for Zuna.
Okay.
But when you look at Hosty heroes, it's Hanzo, Tychus, and when it comes to auto attack style, Greymane, there's an outside shot of a false ad. So auto attack style, and then if he does go into the mage style, what does that leave Zuna on? Unless it's another melee.
I mean, this has been a situation for Simplicity pretty much all series long, is that they have been way more focused on getting their primary warrior, on getting things like Tyrael, on getting their Malthael. That's been very important. Even elevating the status of the support from where we've seen Simplicity before. So it leaves them later on with their range. They'll return to the Gul'dan, and we're going to get the second supporting. Simplicity go for the double support with the Tyrael Malthael. It's a very tanky, a very sustainy composition with that double support and the Tyrael.
It just seemed like it was this or the Tassadar with a Falstad or a Cassia. And I don't think that they wanted to go into that with a style. So Gul'dan does give them more of the shrine control, more of the shrine clear. But leaving Zuna over to Uther, there was not a lot left when it comes to the melee. We've seen him on the ETC. Kerrigan wasn't very appealing in this circumstance. So this, it feels like what Simplicity had left over. We already know about leftovers, Gilly. Grilled cheese. It's not bad. I mean, they've grown it.
Leftover grilled cheese, I would say, is not as good as some other leftover foods.
I probably should have deviated from that. Leftovers versus the top tier foods of the grilled cheese.
Yeah. There you go. Ragnaros as the final pickup for Team Freedom. What do you think of these two drafts?
The Ragnaros, I love it. It fits a lot to the strengths of Team Freedom. They got pretty much everything they're used to getting. Nasmus on Ragnaros, fine. Yoda on Greymane. Hanzo, being played by Lutano. I mean, things look really good. They got pretty much everything that they wanted. On the other side, we're seeing something a little bit different. The high priority on Malthael and Tyrael definitely shook up as far as what we could see drafted assassin-wise. And so I think Simplicity, they're going, a little bit further down the list in terms of strategies they like to run, and they're going to try it here on Infernal Shrines.
Yeah, for Team Freedom, I see something very similar to what we've seen them execute already in this series, which is a warrior like Muradin or ETC to go in. You've got Sulfury Smash to follow up with that. Yoda jumps in along with the Greymane, and maybe even the Dragon's Arrow as another way of being able to set that up. Simplicity have a lot of tools to try to stop that between the double support and the Tyrael, but it's what they can do after that. Can they get kills with that Gul'dan? That's key. It worked out once for them on Towers of Doom. The Gul'dan as we shake our way into Game 4 between Team Freedom and Simplicity.
My favorite thing with Ragnaros is when you have like AoE abilities or the old Crystal Aegis that used to come out. You had a primary target of like, look, I know exactly where to put my Sulfuris Smash. So Alex Stronza puts a big green circle on the ground. We'll see if that plays out as we go forward.
Just checking out to see what, if this is our first mosh pit game of the series. There's not a ton of interrupts there.
Yeah, the Horrify, the potential knockback of the Dragon. I think the thing is, when you see Uther, it'll likely be a cleanse. So like a cleanse, and you gotta think, is there any chance we don't see Divine Storm from Zuna Uther?
Oh, it's going to be Divine Storm. It's Zuna's Uther. I've seen him make some of the longest range Uther flanks I have ever seen. Clear around the shrine.
It's going for a walk. Casual Uther stroll.
Yeah, I don't know which of those would be. Oh, wow. Look at that power slide. Hosty is in a lot of danger. Even giving the blast wave so that Zagrug can get the damage necessary to get that kill. First blood for Team Freedom.
First blood. Collusion gets stunned down. Does have a dash there. He might be in trouble. Yoda's going to stay in on this, but the armor, though, is keeping him more than healthy. That's one thing Uther, of course, does so well against the Greymane.
These blast waves have been really good from Nasmus. That first one with ETC, and then there, Erho wanted to dive back in with the Wraith Strike, but did set him back somewhat more with the damage as he jumped in on top of that. We've got another F-Code Corruption build for Hosty, so we'll once again be stacking. But with having the shrines and the fight around them, we'll see if Team Freedom is willing to give those opportunities. If they feel like they really want to make sure and they get those early shrines, if they want to counter push elsewhere and just use that Molten Core to defend versus early punishers, and maybe that way try to slow down the stacking abilities of Hosty, because it took him quite a while on Towers of Doom to finish that quest. It was well after he had gotten Ruinous Affliction at 16.
Well, we'll see how this is approached with the Molten Core in particular, because this is probably a unique setup in terms of the laning phase. Ragnaros is our solo laner mid. Hanzo is facing off against Alex Stronza in the top. So I imagine that's to use Ragnaros to potentially help with camps, help for early kills. But they haven't made a move. Neither team has made a move towards their shaman camps just yet. So we're still waiting for the strategy to play out. Maybe it's just kind of like that backup factor of, hey, if something goes wrong, or maybe we need to defend here, keep Ragnaros nearby.
Bottom, someone's getting ganked. I think it's Zuna in the middle of a whole lot of Sea of Blue, as it was. Host will be like, thank you for the stacks. Thank you, Zuna, for the bait. And he's doing all right with those, already at 13, as we get ready for the first shrine phase of this game. Malthael's going to be working on the bruisers so that they can have that top push, but it may make them slightly late to the shrine. We'll see the timing on this.
The Molten Core versus the Dragon coming out is kind of the who gets more of an advantage out of that. We know how strong both of them are around the shrine phase, controlling points and stealing the skeletal defenders toward the objective. It's kind of how everything else around that plays out.
You kind of see different timings for the Dragon Queen, but for Molten Core, you really want to try to get up to the 25-ish mark, and then from there, that's when you feel comfortable to use the Molten Core to take that, because otherwise, you're leaving yourself vulnerable. If you don't end up getting enough, and then you Molten Core, then you don't have it for the defense. But K1 Pro's holding on. Now he's going into Dragon Queen as Team Freedom reach that critical mass level of having the right amount for a Molten Core. But Nasmus is just pushing in the bottom. And with so many of Simplicity here, they need to get this very quickly, or else they're going to need to send someone down to do something. But Team Freedom, even in this 4v5, has been phenomenal in keeping up with the skeletal defenders.
Yeah, if they lose this would be catastrophic for Simplicity's early game. They have a 4 skeletal defender lead, but the fact that we have 2 members in Greymane and Ragnaros that were pushing, they obtained a full level lead in that. That is an absurd way of taking an advantage.
That's such a cool idea from Team Freedom, and those are the rotations that we allowed from this team. As they were able to go back and forth, they kept Simplicity there, so that Simplicity couldn't just put one person on the shrine and then move away and push somewhere else, or make sure that they were keeping up with the laning. And though Greymane was kind of going around, you had Nasmus down at the bottom just doing so much, and he comes up for the Molten Core. They only lose the towers there in front of this fort, and Simplicity do get some experience back with that, but that was well done by Team Freedom.
You see Urho was able to get a little bit of structure damage in on the bottom, which definitely paid off, definitely kept them in favor of staying in this game. But Team Freedom, as they move back to those lanes, there was enough minions there for them to just kind of recapture that lead that they had. And, you know, I think Simplicity should have 10 before the next Shrine phase, but if Team Freedom hits 10, will they look for an early invade? Will they look to be aggressive in some of these lanes? I mean, there's not a lot of opportunities. The Shaman camp still a minute and a half away on the side of Simplicity, so see what Team Freedom elects to do with it.
You know what's so cool about that decision that Freedom made too, and having Greymane and Ragnaros pushing alternative lanes, no matter where the next shrine was, they were guaranteed to be able to get something from it as long as they got some damage done to the structures. And here in the bottom, that's where the next shrine is. Now Hosty's in danger as Collusion, Yoda, and Lutano jump in to get that kill on Gul'dan. And with that, get heroic abilities. Now Zuna's being chased down by Zugrug. Dragon's Arrow doesn't catch him, which may mean that Zuna gets out alive. But even with that, having the camp, having 10, Team Freedom capitalize on that bottom push. They get the fort. They also took the wave of lava.
Oh my.
It's lava wave.
I think Trixler phoned in. We got ourselves a lava wave. I mean, there's no global, no ETC this game, so when you have the lead, it's a way to kind of maintain the lead, get the structure push, kind of get that going. They already obtained the Shaman camp right after the objective, so I don't think the Shaman camp on their side is going to be available. They've got their eyes right now set on Mouth Hill. Mouth Hill's got to get out.
I don't think he's going to get out. He was trying to dodge if he could. Power slide deletion completed on Mouth Hill. Is he still questioning his heroic ability? So is Zuna, though. Do they feel like they need Divine Shield along with the Sanctification? Lava Wave down, or that's going to be in the mid. There it is in all its glory. Zooming across.
Cool.
It is. But that's pushing that while they're pushing top. Nobody's there in the mid trying to get those minions. That's a bit of lost experience as K1 Pro's just now starting to come in, as well as allow it to do some damage to that tower.
Definitely got some damage in. It's just, again, the incremental leads that you can find. Getting structures down, of course, is kind of where it's at, but setting yourself up to eventually get those down. That's exactly what they're doing as they go in with Greymane in the mid, as we see the camp being picked up here for Simplicity. And this is something that Freedom does well, Gilly, is to use that Greymane to get that structure push. That lava wave, set up that lane. This is what they do. Sometimes you'll send a hero to clear that wave. This time, you send a whole lava wave down. You set that up, you put the minions in front of you, and then you allow Greymane to work. And Gilly, got a heroic here inside of Uther.
Yep, Divine Storm returns for Zuna. And he really wants to be in that little square vent. That is Zuna's prime flanking position around this shrine. Also, Last Rites eventually obtained, as there was a question of what Erho wanted to pick for his heroics, or his heroic. Simplicity, a slight lead, slight advantage on this shrine and the Skeleton Defenders. Yeah,
but they've got Ragnar splitting off again, does Team Freedom, and they've got enough clear from Hanzo and team that just, it's not necessarily about winning. Every Skeletal Defender, because they spawn in waves, every Skeletal Defender you take from your opponent just delays the inevitable. You're gonna lose, but we now have a fort down in the top lane. So you gave up the Punisher, you obtained a fort, you'll send Ragnaros down with Molten Core, and you'll save your fort. The odds of you saving that fort with Molten Core are incredibly high. So you trade out, you have a net positive at the end of the day.
It's so cool to see Team Freedom use this, because we really haven't seen Ragnaros play like this yet in all of NA HGC on Infernal Shrines. It's usually just focused on making sure that you're able to get those shrines. As we see the Lava Wave go here in the mid, Team Freedom seeing if they could keep some of Simplicity here to get some damage done, but not getting that. It's a free clear on that Punisher, who wasn't even able to take down the front wall ahead of this fort. Team Freedom maintain their dominance. They are in the driver's seat for this game.
I wonder how frustrating it is if you're Simplicity. I mean, you're literally walking up to where, you know, you're there in the middle of the field. You're there in the middle of the battleground. You're like, look, I'm putting my foot down. Come on, let's fight, let's fight, let's fight. And Team Freedom's like, what if we don't, right? What if we just go do stuff somewhere else? And it's just like, Simplicity wants to force this. They came in before 13 was obtained by Freedom. They wanted to try and get the fight, get the takedowns, try and find a way back into this. Instead, they don't. You see Tyrael, he's going to be just fine as he Eldruins over.
Hand of protection.
Is there. Yeah.
Also helped him out from Zuna as 13 now here for Simplicity. Freedom were hoping to maybe catch someone out just before that hit for Simplicity. Now, how are we doing on Echoed Corruption? 5 more stacks, and that is done. That's far faster for Simplicity. Thankfully for them, having a lot of time around those shrines to build those up.
Mitigating damage with your Q ability from Uther is how you finish your quest on Silver Touch. He's sitting at 59 stacks. That's how evasive Team Freedom has been. They don't have fast auto attacks to proc that anyways. Ragnaros would kind of be the fastest one with his Meteor, but everything else is slow and steady, and so he hasn't had an opportunity to really stack that. They have abilities, talents at level 1 that are waiting to be completed that can definitely have a major impact in the later part of the game.
Considering the interaction between Resilient Flame and the potential Benediction at 16, but just the double stun of Divine Storm and the Hammer of Justice, which we see going out there now. Dragon's Arrow doesn't catch Hosty as he's moving back, but Zuna has still been caught up in front of the team as the shielding of King Caffeine keeps him alive for the moment. Now, Hosty is way zoned away from the rest of the team as that lava wave goes in, and they're still chasing him down. He has been found. This cat and mouse game will come to a conclusion with Hosty going down.
That scatter arrow was so money. I mean, that just helped. I mean, he might get away on his mount there, but the minute he got dismounted, that scatter arrow just bounced around in that choke point. It opened the door, and Team Freedom walked right in, and that entrance is down here to the bot keep. They take the wall. They get themselves 16. They'll walk away with still a 2-level lead.
Yeah, the structure damage they can do, they blew open the front door to that keep. Shrine will be activating in 20 seconds mid. There is a mercenary camp that could be obtained by one of these teams. But otherwise for Team Freedom, they're feeling pretty good now. They have wrested control of these lanes. It paid off in dividends for them to give up some of those early shrines so that they could have the structure push. And now they're just looking at bringing down the last fort in the mid of Simplicity. And with Simplicity nowhere near 16, and feeling like they have a fair fight, it's likely that they're just going to have to soak other lanes. Or do they?
They think that, look, they're not giving us an opportunity to fight. This is going to be our best chance, down a talent tier or not. They're going in. They're forcing it out. The Dragon Queen is out as well. They're down 17 to 13. Ragnaros, I believe, should have Molten Core. There it comes.
They'll use the Molten Core this time. Team Freedom are not going to allow Simplicity to slow this game down, to give up Team Freedom's control that they have. Dragon Queen done. Zuna on the other side, looking for the Divine Storm. They find it. It's on ETC. Zugrug knocks back people, but with the Horrify, he's still trying to be brought down, and Simplicity gets it. But it's 33 to the 16. Can Simplicity get the Punisher along with that ETC kill?
Yoda coming in. There's still Sanctification. It goes down, and all of a sudden, Greymane just barely gets alive. Nazimus, however, Ragnaros in the front side. He's going to go down. Lava Wave's going to come in, do some damage. Lutano looking for the follow-up. Yoda trying to use the cocktail to potentially steal these away, but I think right now the threat is just way too much from Simplicity. Gilly, they took that fight down a talent tier.
Yeah, the Zoning Angel and the Zoning Paladin way far up. Yoda and Lutano just can't find their entrance around this. Finally, with the camp in the top, Team Freedom have to disengage and allow that shrine to be obtained. That was amazing by Simplicity that they were willing to go in, and Simplicity is one of the few teams that we see in NA HGC who is willing to take that chance, and now they're looking for more, JL.
They're looking for more. This is comeback city right now as Yoda's going to go down. Greymane goes down. They've got a top fort down, and the experience drastically has shifted in favor of Simplicity as they are now rotating. It looks like they're going to push in top keep wall, get themselves keep wall, get themselves the experience, and all of a sudden, we got ourselves a game. I mean, the gall to just say, look, we're down a talent here. You have not given us an opportunity to fight, so we're taking it. And Simplicity did more than take that fight.
And it started with the Hammer of Justice, the Divine Storm. They didn't quite take out Zugrug, and Simplicity were willing to give more to get that kill. That's how important it was to them that they take out that solo frontliner. They dropped Horrify, and with that, they dropped ETC. From there, Team Freedom, they tried a little bit longer to stay around, but Nasmus got caught. Yoda kind of did too, but he got away. And then in the end, they ended up losing that staggered death of Yoda. And Team Freedom, that staunches a lot of the momentum going in now. We've seen Forts go down now on Team Freedom's side. Simplicity pretty much right there in experience. And they have a lot of opportunities now to get the aggression going in the way that they would like.
They definitely do. It just... oh man, that could be the play that just, I mean, potentially could determine a series, determine a game to go in and take that fight. But the fact that we're on even footing now, Lava Wave, of course, can always impact a minion wave push. We see the Shaman camp was actually picked up early. Despite the next Shrine phase being in the bottom, they already picked that up. It's going to force a rotation out of Simplicity, but this might be a fight that they can take here. Team Freedom is very far forward.
As long as Molten Core's up and Nasmus can get back into position, they have a safe retreat point. They drop the Sonic Arrow. You see Nasmus is moving into position just in case. Simplicity, a lot of respect for that. A lot of respect for the Molten Core. They were not in a spot to try to stun that out. It's really sort of on Zuna to make sure you can get in position for that, unless they're willing to use the Horrify if they see Nasmus there. They force back Team Freedom, who does not use the Molten Core for that fight. In the mid, though, Simplicity still has a mercenary camp. That should be the next place we see Team Freedom go to defend.
They're going to defend that. We saw just as we left that area, the Shaman camp on the side of Simplicity is about 15 seconds away from out, 10 or 15 seconds away. So they could use that to push. Molten Core still a minute away before it could be used to help defend against that in the top lane. So that is an advantage. But I think right now, Simplicity recognizes they're starting to give up a little bit in terms of experience because they haven't been defending these lanes. King Caffeine splitting over, Uther hanging out in the mid. They got to find ways to come back here because 20 quickly approaching for Freedom, as is the next Shrine phase.
Team Freedom sort of reminds me of where we saw Ballistics for a lot of last year, in that they are all about sticking together as one, trying for a party push. You can see Molten Core starting to go down. Team Freedom wants to keep them here in the position so that they can get the poke off of that. And if Horrify is used by Hosty to ensure that the team can disengage.
I think there was a mosh pit potentially coming in there, and he's like, look, I don't want any of this. We're going to keep you guys alive, especially during the Molten Core phase. And here's 20, and here's a Shrine. Simplicity. Will they be willing to take this fight down a talent tier?
There's maybe the potential to poke for a little while. Also to have that camp in the top. But it's sort of dire straits here for Simplicity just for a moment. This is a Shrine that if they win, they still have a fort to go through, but if Team Freedom win it, that keep has already taken damage. And Simplicity need that 20. Team Freedom understanding that, get right on top of the point and start it as soon as they can.
If they had a different composition, we've seen teams like Team Fnatic in the past, they would clear out that top and backdoor that keep. With the gameplay changes, it's a little bit more difficult because they hit so hard, but we would see teams play towards that top camp on the side of Team Freedom, fake the backdoor, force a response out of Freedom, because at that point you're giving up a keep for a keep. And then you can't necessarily push with the Punisher to end game, and you get 20. Instead, Urho, he goes back, gets 20. Now they have a defense. They're on even talent tiers, but they have a Punisher moving against them. See if they can hold.
And of course, Lava Wave value slows down that top push too. But Simplicity have 20. It's going to be a difficult defense, trying to bait this Punisher, trying to deal with this Punisher, but should they do so, they'll be on even terms. King Caffeine jumped forward. That got a little dicey, but Simplicity are okay. They have stabilized, doing their best to take down this Punisher. They have to be very careful of the jump, and the minute this keep goes down, if Nasmus has that Molten Core and can get into position for that.
Zugrug, he's waiting to see if that Punisher is going to jump. He'd snap lock the blink and then look to get the mosh pit. Instead, they were able to, Simplicity was able to clear that out. That's why you see ETC was holding that. All great ETC players will hold that. Look for the most impactful momentary play. Had that jumped over on multiple people, you could have expected the blink mosh there. A good play by Simplicity to hold. They lose the keep, but they still find themselves in the game.
Another great rotation from Team Freedom just to clear out that final fort that was still standing, which gives them this forward base of the Molten Core throughout difficulty too. So we can get a lot more out of that. Just trying to siege down these keep towers. Potentially for the next Shrine, we'll see where that's at. It is in the mid. So this is really nice for them too. They kind of get the same setup, the same situation they had with the last Punisher if they're able to secure it. Arrow getting really deep though. He wanted to try to catch Nasmus if he could as he came out of that Molten Core. So far it hasn't been able to happen. There's the smite.
Boost him forward a little bit, but Collusion's like, oh, I'll come over. Gonna be just fine. Tense game so far. Find themselves in a similar position does Simplicity with the bottom keep down. This is not Cursed Hollow. There is no boss now. And the last Punisher was in the bot lane. So now we're looking at the mid for the next phase. See if they can hold on.
A qualification match for Team Freedom. They had a very difficult weekend. They lost in a reverse sweep versus Team 12. They lost to Space Station Gaming in what is maybe going to be considered the upset of NA HGC Part 1. Huge upset, huge win for Space Station when it was oh so needed. Team Freedom, they need this win, even if nothing else, just to make sure that should they be qualified for the Western Clash, they're going in not doubting themselves, doubting their abilities, especially after having so many dominant wins and then losing twice in a row last week.
Well, this camp down here makes it a bit difficult because this can push with the catapults. Hold you down here a little bit longer. Instead, pick it up early. Simplicity, recognizing that potential to try and take a team fight. So if Simplicity can keep this bottom lane pushed out, Gilly, and we have an even team fight, if Simplicity gets a team wipe, they could essentially go, they opened up that top keep, they could take down keep and then push to core. It does take a team wipe at this point, but a Punisher this late in the game could also just as easily end the game for either team. So right now there's still a lot up in the air for both Freedom and Simplicity, and there's our time.
25 seconds. Team Freedom are just squatting on the shrine, saying, this is ours, we've already claimed it, we had that hard work of going mid, of taking down that fort, sieging with the Molten Core so that we could get those keep towers. This is ours, Simplicity. And Simplicity are going to start with the Bruiser Camp. Try to have a push here in the top lane. They, bottom will be a concern after a while.
ETC and team are
yeah,
really far forward. Like, they have to be seen right now. Will Simplicity take the bait as they just moved directly onto the keep?
they did. Look at ETC. He's there to stop the push back in. Beautiful
Whoa!
cleanse. That cleanse was insane for this Molten Core. Now Zuna is in so much danger.
Zuna is in danger, but that could go down. Right now, Molten Core is doing damage. The area heal is going to be there. It's going to keep Simplicity alive, but the keep goes in. Lava Wave's going to do some damage to K1 Pro. Simplicity looking for a fight. K1 and team moving forward. They haven't got the lockdown just yet, but the Cleansing Flames are out from, oh my.
Yeah, the Horrify went out, didn't really do too much. Simplicity needs this fight. They need this fight so bad. But now with a cleanse, then with the Divine Palm, Nasmus stays alive. Collusion is on point with this Karazim play. Gives another cleansing dash. ETC with the Death Metal catches 3 as he goes down.
But Uther has the heals. He'll be back, but K1 Pro is going to go down. Yoda trying to make the plays happen on the backside. Cleansing touch is going to go in. Yoda, can he get another takedown instead? Yoda's going to be the one to fall. 2 members down on the side of Freedom. Zuna and team moving forward. They're going to see if they can take down one more, but the scatter shot does so much damage to Zuna.
Zuna is very, very low. There is a shrine in mid, a camp in top. Team Freedom went in and just took what they felt was theirs. Even if they didn't get the shrine, they took out that keep, and that puts Team Freedom even closer to being able to win this game. But not having those two people now, Zuna has to go back and deal with catapults. He's going to be one sad Uther as he tries to do that, but that allows Simplicity to keep their damage dealers on this shrine. This is not a one shrine at all for Simplicity. Team Freedom still very healthy between the Lutano and Collusion here. Nasmus going back. That camp did take down top keep, though.
Yeah, it was there long enough. Ragnaros not able to do enough damage. Hosty and team pushing forward, pushing back Collusion and Lutano, but we've got Molten Core again. The Dragon Arrow goes out. Urho, we see Collusion. Can he make the play? He does get out just in the nick of time. Zuna has made his way over, spreading out the heals to his team. The Dragon is back in the form of Alex Strauss, but can she get here in time?
She's trying to get here 25-28 as Malthael falls. Malthael is coming back, though. He has no one can stop death. ETC's here as Alex Strauss gets back, meaning that with that power slide, there's going to be a power play slightly for Team Freedom as Malthael tries to get back to this point. Zugrig, though, takes a heap full of poison damage, and with the Divine Storm, it takes down down ETC, but he has the death metal, and Freedom moves in for more kills.
Yeah, Urho, though, he's going to look to try and re-engage here. The Punisher was picked up by Team Freedom in the meantime. We still have a fight on our hands. Simplicity and team, they've got to get back. Lava Wave coming to Urho, getting so low. Alex Straza keeping him alive for the moment, but he does get away. But the core has taken damage, Gilly.
It's taking damage. It barely has any shields at all as the Punisher's in, and Team Freedom, their positioning are forcing Team Simplicity to go all the way around the long way, and that should be enough as Urho takes the leap. Team Freedom gets onto this core, and after a mile-long team fight, Freedom getting on the core will be able to finish out this series and beat Simplicity 3-1.
That's how you end the series right there. Team Freedom holding on, and the minute Ragnaros kind of came back and was like, guys, I got Molten Core again, that just helped secure them the victory. That was insane.
I wondered if Death Metal would be ultimately the ending up pick for Zugrog. We've seen it a couple of times from him, from Fury too, but when you look at how Simplicity were going in for those kills, it was all down to the Uther, right? We know that Zuna wants to set up those fights. He goes in for the 1 stun, the 2 stun, the Divine Storm after that. Zuna was the focus, everyone collapsed a couple of times. He got those 3-man death medals, and that was money for them to be able to win that last team fight. But the zoning was so fantastic. They got the Punisher, and they allowed it to just walk on forward, thanks to them just saying, what if we took a keep right now? That sounds pretty fun.
That is one, and it was so coordinated, right? The play that we saw there, Ragnaros, the only way that that doesn't work is if Ragnaros gets interrupted on Molten Core. Collusion, they know. He's like, I got Cleansing Touch on 16. He waits for them to move in for the stun, comes over, dashes to them, hits them with the cleanse, allows Ragnaros to get in that. They got the keep out of it, and that play right there goes down of like, man, you don't see those plays often. That is not something you see very often. Collusion, going back to the Cursed Hollow game, Cleansing Touch, we've seen the palms. Everything that he is doing is elevating him to the top of supports. That is insane play, good team effort though. You can't do that alone. That is a coordinated team effort, but shout outs to Collusion for keeping this team alive.
Yeah, shout outs to Collusion for channeling his inner Mary Day, because that Karazim play really all part long. We have seen tons of amazing palms. Those cleansing touches to get the Molten Core was epic. I cannot wait to see how he does at the Western Clash versus the likes maybe of a certain Smexy, who also rocks the Karazim. And on the topic, congratulations Team Freedom for qualifying for the Western Clash. They join Tempo Storm, and they take one of those 3 final spots that are left. Now only 2 left between Team 12, Heroes Hearth Esports, and Gale Force Esports will be trying their hand at taking down Tempo Storm in the next series.
Yeah, Team Freedom, they've had this situation in their hands for the last 2 weeks, Gilly. Win and you're in. That's it. All you have to do is win 1 series. They fell twice last weekend, thus setting up a much more exciting final weekend before the Clash. So they had their fate in their own hands. They were able to secure it, and they did it in impressive fashion. And again, the story of Simplicity, I don't know how to tell this story. I mean, if you were to say, hey, how's Simplicity? And you look at their record and you see that they're 2-5, it doesn't do them justice in the way of how good this team is. It's just they're struggling to get over that hump, and I don't know what it is. But this team is good. Right? Don't get me wrong. Don't let their record fool you. And I feel like you can only say that so often. But right now, Simplicity was very much in this series. The Sky Temple game almost had it. The second game, they won pretty dominant fashion in some of the team fights. They just haven't been able to get over that hump yet.
Yeah, but they are a team that has been improving week by week and then had the stellar growth of last week. So I have no doubt that they're going to come in part 2 swinging, and I can't wait to see how that looks. But I also am very excited to check in now with Zugrug, who will be heading to IEM Katowice for the Western Clash. Congratulations, Zugrug. How are you and your team feeling?
We're feeling good, but our series lately have been not going as planned for the most part.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. What was the mood, the feel of the team after you guys' tough 2 losses last weekend, and what did you do to sort of rally the team back together?
I mean, everyone was a bit down losing both series last week because either of those wins would have clinched us for the LAN, but we just like reevaluated our drafts and just practiced harder this week.
Do you have a certain person on the team whose job it is to kind of rally you guys together after tough losses like that, or even if you lose a game within a series?
Me or Nasmus are usually pretty good at rallying the team.
All right, well, big props to you then for doing that, you and Nasmus, because you guys came back in, you beat Simplicity, and you've qualified for the Western Clash. Congrats. I'll send you over to J-How.
Thanks.
Zugrug, you just mentioned your drafts, and that was something that Yoda had echoed to me when I talked to him earlier this week. Did it feel like you guys sorted that out here in this final week? To us, it seemed like you guys got a lot of what you wanted, but do you feel this series definitely kind of smooths that out before Poland?
I think our drafts this week were improved from last week, but I think we still have some work to put in drafts just to make our games a bit easier.
You guys obviously have made some pretty stellar calls, and that mid keep, talk me through that, because it relied on collusion to hit the cleansing dash onto Nasmus there. Is that something you guys are actively calling? That was a very risky call to push in that mid keep. Tell me how that plays out.
Yeah, well, we didn't really want to fight them on Shrine due to their comp, like having Alex and Dragon and stuff, so we wanted to force a fight outside of Shrine, and Nasmus is like, when I'm getting an MC, you better cleanse me. So we made sure it landed.
You guys have definitely showed that stellar macro play. When it comes to the team fighting, obviously Simplicity was looking for a fight, and they came in 15 versus 16 that one time in that similar Shrine phase. Do you feel like team fighting is something you guys need to work on? Is it just something that you're trying to just really focus on the macro play? How do you kind of bring that up to your macro play, which, to be honest, is probably the best North America's seen in a long time?
I think the way we play the map usually allows us to get fights like 5 versus 4 or like on terms that we want. So I guess we need more practice just having even fights or like fighting on the enemy's terms, because it feels like it doesn't happen that often, but sometimes when it does, it goes bad for us.
Well, you guys have definitely been improving, and congratulations, and we'll see you in Poland, man.
Thanks.
Zugrug, you are going to be going to the Western Clash, and we know that Team Dignitas, Fnatic, and Method have all qualified so far from Europe, waiting on that 4th team. Are there any of those that you are particularly looking forward to testing your mettle against?
Well, we're looking forward to playing Dig and seeing how good they are, because they've looked like amazing so far in HGC. So it'll be interesting to see how we match up against them.
Yeah, they look pretty scary. But Zealot's got the upset today, so we'll see how you guys do.
Yeah.
Good luck to you guys, the Western Clash, and if you have any shout-outs, now's the time.
Thanks. Shout out to my teammates for pulling through today and qualifying. Shout out to our sponsors, HyperX and Team Freedom. Shout out to Twitch chat, and shout out to all of our fans.
Thank you, Zugrug. Congrats again.
Thanks.
2 teams, leaving the spots open to 2. The plot thickens.
The plot thickens. I mean, I don't want to move too far forward because I want to give all the props in the world to Team Freedom, but we got Gale Force versus Tempo coming up next, Gilly.
Ooh, yeah, let's get to it. We're going to go to the commercial break because I'm so pumped for that series, so don't go anywhere. After this break, Tempo versus Gale Force.